Shravanam Diaries podcast.
Hare Krishna, everyone. We're continuing to read the Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Chapter 10, The Opulence of the Absolute. And today is Gita Jayanti. This is the day where Gita was spoken about 5,000 years ago. Jai. So, text number 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bhuya eva mahabaho shrinu me paramam vachaha yatteham priyamanaya vakshyami hitakamyaya. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Listen again, O mighty armed Arjuna, because you are my friend. For your benefit, I shall speak to you further, giving knowledge that is better than what I have already explained." Purport. The word Bhagavan is explained thus by Parashara Muni, one who is full in 6 opulences, who has full strength, full fame, wealth, knowledge, beauty, and renunciation is Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. While Krishna was present on this earth, He displayed all 6 opulences. Therefore, great sages like Parashara Muni have all accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, Krishna is instructing Arjuna in more confidential knowledge of his opulences and his work. Previously, beginning with the 7th chapter, the Lord has already explained his different energies and how they're acting. Now in this chapter, he explains his specific opulences to Arjuna. In the previous chapter, he has clearly explained his different energies to establish devotion in firm conviction. Again, in this chapter, he tells Arjuna about his manifestations and various opulences. The more one hears about the Supreme Lord, the Supreme God, the more one becomes fixed in devotional service. One should always hear about the Lord in the association of devotees. That will enhance one's devotional service. So if we really want to be fixed, if we really want to fix ourselves in devotional service, we need to hear. That's Shravanam. Okay. Discourses in the society of devotees can take place only among those who are really anxious to be in Krishna consciousness. Others cannot take part in such discourses. The Lord clearly tells Arjuna that because Arjuna is very dear to him, for his benefit, such discourses are taking place. Actually, this is true, that you would think that hearing is so simple and so easy to do, but you will rarely find devotees, meaning of the pool of aspiring devotees, you will rarely find a group of devotees who just come together to talk about the Supreme Lord. They may come together to discuss some material issues, material improvement, gossips, but to really find the Sangha where it's just pure Krishna consciousness and everyone is ecstatically, reading and hearing together. That's rare. That's rare, considering there's 7 billion people around on this planet. So, text 2. Na me viduh suraganaha prabhavam ma maharshaya aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvashaha. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and sages. Purport. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord. No one is greater than Him. He is the cause of all causes. He is also stated by the Lord personally that He is the source, the cause of all demigods and sages. Okay, so here it's also stated that the Lord is the cause of all the demigods and sages. Even the demigods and great sages cannot understand Krishna. They can understand neither His name nor His personality. So what is the position of the so-called scholars of this tiny planet? No one can understand why the Supreme God comes to planet Earth as an ordinary human being and executes such wonderful, uncommon activities. One should know, then, that scholarship is not the qualification necessary to understand Krishna. Even the demigods and the great sages have tried to understand Krishna by their mental speculation, and they have failed to do so. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also it is clearly said that even the great demigods are not able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They can speculate to the limits of their imperfect senses and can reach the opposite conclusion of impersonalism, of something not manifested by the three qualities of material nature, or they can imagine something by mental speculation, but it is not possible to understand Krishna by such foolish speculation. Here the Lord indirectly says that if anyone wants to know the absolute truth, quote, "Here I am, present as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am the Supreme," unquote. One should know this. Although one cannot understand the inconceivable Lord who is personally present, He nonetheless exists. We can actually understand Krishna, who is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, simply by studying His words in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The conception of God as some ruling power or as the impersonal Brahman can be reached by persons who are in the inferior energy of the Lord. But the personality of Godhead cannot be conceived unless one is in the transcendental position. This is very, very important for us to understand that, for me personally, I went into a complete crisis, and I would call it intrapersonal conflict, that I couldn't understand why would Krishna do to me whatever He's doing. And at one point, I mentioned it in this podcast as well. At one point, I read in Srila Prabhupada's book that we can't understand Krishna in our present position. We're just meant to love Him. And I shared it with one Mataji Ishani, Niranjan Maharaj's disciple, and she also was going through a situation where she had to hear this statement. That, we can't understand Krishna when we're on the level that we're at. We can't. We can only love Him. And by coming to that transcendental platform, then we may have an idea. Because most men cannot understand Krishna in His actual situation, out of His causeless mercy, He descends to show favor to such speculators. Yet, Despite the Supreme Lord's uncommon activities, these speculators, due to contamination in the material energy, still think that this impersonal Brahman is the supreme. Only the devotees who are fully surrendered unto the Supreme Lord can understand, by the grace of the Supreme Personality, that He is Krishna. The devotees of the Lord do not bother about the impersonal Brahman conception of God. Their faith and devotion bring them to surrender immediately unto the Supreme Lord, and out of the causeless mercy of Krishna, they can understand Krishna. No one else can understand Him. So even great sages agree. What is Atma? What is the Supreme? It is He whom we have to worship. Oh, that brings us to the next question, actually. Even great sages agree. What is Atma? What is the Supreme? So today is Saturday, so we're having Saturday Q&A, and we partially touch on the subject, who are we and why we are what we are. So listen in the bonus episode of the day, and we shall stop reading, we shall conclude the episode here. But in our own time, we shall definitely be reading more Bhagavad Gita today. Happy Gita Jayanti, everyone. May you absorb in Bhagavad Gita. And yes, I wanted to sing again that Radio Krishna Loka song. It's about us, Bhagavad Gita. What was that? The Lord's holy name, the transcendental world, it's yours. Chant, chant, Hare Krishna, open the doors. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for tuning in today. The book links, previous episodes timeline, and biography of the author can be found on shravanamdiaries.com. The link is in the description, and we shall see you tomorrow.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare